Well, Jim,
Yes.
that was international intrigue. But let's now move on to the opposite of intrigue. I don't know what exactly it is, but AEW had their annual tribute to Antonio Inoki, WrestleDream. This time, it took place again. I don't remember where it was. Where was it this year, Jim? Do you remember?
Back here for the very first time in St. Louis, Missouri.
Louis, that's right. That's right.
That's why they had the big arch on the stage there.
That's right.
Actually, they were trying to conduct some kind of weird fucking Tesla experiment.
The home of Lou Thez, the home of Sam Mushnick, the home of St. Louis wrestling. What better way to honor the traditional NWA stylings of St. Louis wrestling?
Poor Charlie Thez.
Charlie Thez, who was having a great time. Literally, they were saying hello to her mid-match at some points on the show. It's a great fan experience, AEW, but let's talk about wrestling.
Do you remember that great moment between Lou Thez and Dick Hutton where they waterboarded each other?
I think that was actually between Carl Gotch and Buddy Rogers, if I'm remembering correctly.
It came close to it. If they'd been in the showers instead of where they were, all right.
Well, it's a long road to waterboarding.
It's a long road to Tipperary, but we're going to go anyway. I think I've come up with it, Brian, to explain this whole show, this AEW WrestleDream pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever. I can explain it. And the answer is that all these guys, all the wrestlers in the locker room, they got together and they say, you know what? We have done everything we can do. Literally, they've done everything they can do. And we beat up our bodies and just put ourselves in a hospital, and this ain't going to work. We hate these because the WWE, they're making more money than the Philadelphia Mint with a branch office in Carson City. They are like, what the fuck? We do all this shit. And yeah, Tony's paying us, but we ain't drawing shit. And meanwhile, they don't do anything. And the people are goddamn fighting to get in there. And they've got together and they said, let's kill it. Let's just kill it. What's the downside? The way that we all work, we're not going to make it the next 3 or 4 years anyway. Tony's never going to give up. He's going to pay for this thing no matter what happens. If we hospitalize ourselves, then at least we get to stay home. We still get paid. But let's just do every kind of farcical, parody, jackass wrestling stunt that we possibly, let's just kill it. Let's do everything. Let's where they can't possibly do anything else they haven't already seen. At least for the people that are seeing what the fuck we're doing. We'll kill it for them. And that's the way they're going to take the WWE out of business by killing the whole fucking wrestling business. This is my proposal now. They can't honestly think this is good on purpose anymore. Can they?
I think they do. And I think that's the problem. I think he does. And I think that's the problem. I think there are wrestlers who Tony gives a lot of leeway to, like a Darby or a John Moxley. And it's not just them, but they go way too far with it. And does stuff that doesn't help the company, the perception of the company, the perception of wrestling. Makes both guys look like morons. But AEW, I think, thinks they're doing a good job. It's a tired phrase. The inmates are running the asylum. Tony's running the asylum.
Tony needs to be an inmate.
The inmates are running free in the asylum. And there's no guards. There's just no fucking guards. And the guards there just shrug and go, oh, fuck, there's nothing I could do. These inmates are going to go jump off that fucking ladder right onto their head. I can't stop them.
Yeah.
But yeah, AEW is a tale of excess. And, Tony Khan's the same guy that I believe has said at Media Scrums that AEW is a family product for everybody. That's not even close to true.
Yeah, but it's only if you don't like your family. Jesus, hey, yeah, bring mother-in-law and Uncle Claude over it. Let's make them watch this shit. Good Lord. All righty. So they were in St. Louis, as we mentioned, at the Chaffetz Arena. This thing was chafing on me about midway through. But before the actual pay-per-view itself, of course, as you know, they have a pre-show, which now they call a tailgate brawl. Are the people just allowed to drive their vehicles into the building and just watch them brawl?
Where did that air? Because I got it
don't
through
know.
Amazon, and I got a 1-hour pre-show that appeared to be in the arena from up high called 0 Hour, which has always been the name of their pre-show. And
Yes.
it was Renee and RJ and Lance Archer. Who
you doesn't got to call him RJ.
For a giant heel who should be a killer, he is like so well composed on the microphone. But they had, and Jeff Jarrett, of course, because this has been the year of the retirement of John Cena and Jeff Jarrett. Let's not forget that. But where's Tailgate Party air?
I don't know, because and this time I was able to differentiate because I got it on Amazon. But they said, do you want to watch the 0 Hour? No. Do you want to watch okay. But they do it somewhere, and it's in the building, and they're broadcasting it somewhere. But nevertheless, they had a number of matches, as you would imagine, before the actual show matches. I'm reading the recap.
Shouldn't it be in the parking lot? If it's a tailgate thing, if that's the name you're going to use, why wouldn't it be in the parking lot?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't really say. It doesn't say, but at the same time, when the last match on the 0 Hour or pre-show or tailgate party or whatever the fuck bled over into the actual pay-per-view, they were in the ring, in the building. So I don't know. You're asking me to try to explain things related to Tony Khan's mind.
Help me.
Help me. So evidently Claudio and Wheeler and Danny Garcia and Pac beat Kyle O'Reilly, Ishii, Roderick Strong, and Pockets. So a good 8-man tag to start the night off. And then
that truly is a battle of who is the worst faction. The Death Riders, who have been awful, and the conglomeration, which appears to just be any babyface who has nothing to do, they throw into this thing. Man or woman, Ishii just in the middle of this out of nowhere makes no sense. Orange Cassidy, Adam Cole's old friends, Mark Briscoe, Willow Nightingale. It's the biggest makeshift group, but again, the Death Riders completely fucking suck.
But it also, that's their truth in advertising. That's why they call it the conglomeration. So see, they're admitting up front, here's just a bag of miscellaneous parts. But anyway, of course, the Death Riders have to win that because naturally they do. Then apparently Eddie Kingston has taken Hook under his armpit, an unenviable position for anyone. And they wrestled, Brian, the Frat House, Griff Garrison and Cole Carter. Get out of the way for old Cole Carter. He's a real stinky farter. He'll shit on your head when you ain't looking because he's been eating Granny's cooking.
Thinking long-term booking in a couple of years, they're perfectly set up for a really good Eddie Kingston Kota Ibushi feud over who has the most time off. You broke my record.
Well, they did that. Then Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale wrestled Megan Brain and Penelope Pitstop. And I don't see who won. Willow won. Willow won. And then the match that started the pay-per-view, because now their strategy is we'll get a hot match going and we'll run it into the main show, the pay-per-view. So we've hooked the people from wherever this is showing or whatever the case may be. And they picked FTR against Kevin Knight and Hong Kong Phooey. The first thing that you saw on the pay-per-view, and the match is already going on, but they fire the pyro off anyway when they come up on the air for the pay-per-view. But the first thing you see is, again, this fucking little weaselly, innocuous, bland. What more terminology can I use to describe Spitball?
4th degree black belt, notorious badass.
Oh, Christ.
Baddest man in the house.
Well, he's up on top of one of FTR throwing some fake girly punches. And that's the first thing you see. They're kicking the shit out of FTR. And then Stokely gets in the ring and interferes in front of the referee. And it was a continuous four-way, except when two guys would roll out and hide on the floor so the other two guys could go do their shit. And the referee doing nothing about that anyway. And what it was FTR trying to fucking tear the house down with anybody to show we can do it with anybody. And most of the time in this company, they end up with people that can't keep up, or it's preposterous, or at some point, dude, it ain't your place. This isn't even like the Midnight Express and the Rock and Roll Express trying to steal the show in Greensboro. It's like, my God, there's going to be 4 more hours of this shit and just 100 miles an hour. And again, it would bury a 15-year-old girl not to be able to overpower Bailey. I would take the other Bailey in a fight with this Bailey. So, I mean, do you see they just get complicated and the baby faces can't follow it and it gets to be too much regardless for anybody?
Yeah, I do get that. I think that on a positive note, I do like the idea of starting the pay-per-view with FTR. That's the best chance you got to have the show start with a reasonable wrestling match in a perfect world, not necessarily this. But they didn't even do that. They started in the middle of it. I didn't even have access to the beginning of the match. I thought it was all right. You know, the Speedball Mike Bailey thing, even if he is the biggest badass of all time, even if he's the toughest motherfucker who ever lived, he doesn't look like it. And this is a cosmetic injury. This is a cosmetic industry. And I think it matters. I think, you know, if you have someone who's the toughest guy ever and he's a tiny little guy, you know, that shouldn't be the gimmick necessarily, but, you know, they like him. The AEW fans like him. FTR did a lot here. It was almost like they were trying to do a classic FTR match. And, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah. And, you know, that may be a good term to describe Bailey, though. Cosmetic injury. What? He's suffered one either through Mother Nature or whatever. And then the finish, go ahead.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, if you said, you know, if you have Wardlow, and again, we don't have him and we won't have him for a while, but like him when he was in shape when he was first there, if you had said that guy's the baddest guy on the planet, you could build that, even if it's not true, because it looks reasonable. With a Mike Bailey, it doesn't seem reasonable. Like, unless you get like real like security cam footage of him kicking the shit out of everyone at a bar, it doesn't seem reasonable.
Don't give him any ideas.
Do it, Tony. Let him start the fight and let him finish the fight. Let's see what happens. And then we can do a weekly thing. Just take the wrestlers and put them in real life bar fights. I'd pay to see that.
But then also some wise ass is going to say, well, Bruce Lee was only 140 pounds. That's the part where the aura comes in, where the ability to project some level of that comes in. And you can't compare this. He's taking your order at a fucking Subway, this guy.
Yeah.
It's not,
the kicks. Like, even if he's a real karate guy who can throw real kicks, he looks like he's auditioning for the Rockettes when he throws them that quickly. Like, it doesn't look like this guy's a badass. It looks like this guy goes to jazzercise.
Look how fast I can lift my feet up in the air. Yes, we like it. We like it. All right. And that's where they went to ringside for Tony Schiavone with poor Charlie Thest. It's good to see that she's doing well, but she was trying to put St. Louis over, and oh, it's just wonderful, the wonderful matches, and she's a very nice woman, but Lou Thesz would have vomited already on his shoes if he was in the front row. I mean, yet he stayed interested and involved with the business. When he lived in Norfolk in the 80s, he used to go to the matches there every once in a while at the Scope. But no, can you imagine at any point in Lou Thesz, who, when he was NWA champion, told him he didn't want to be booked on the same card with women and midgets because he felt it demeaned the industry, and who pretty much never participated in any kind of gimmick match, even with stipulations. It was a rare thing. And Brian, you have the Wrestling News Archive. I've got an incredible photo collection. When's the last time you saw a picture of Lou Thesz bleeding in the wrestling ring?
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Well, he wrestled from 1935 until the mid 1980s, in 50 years. So what the fuck would he think about all this? He would slap the guys around 50 years ago if he didn't think they were legitimate wrestlers then. What would he do with Jack Perry?
Again, this is Lou Thesz, who we heard at one point or another hated Memphis-type wrestling, gimmicks, didn't want to wrestle on shows with women. He would have gone apeshit over this show.
But, and she was, again, searching, oh, it's great to be back in St. Louis. But nevertheless.
Was that it about the FTR match? No closing thoughts?
Oh, yeah, that was it about the FTR match. Because, I mean, what, they're meaningless at this point. They've been booked into irrelevancy, and the fans have turned on them, and they've got children to work with. So what's to look forward to?
Well, there's more of this card to look forward to.
Oh, not to look forward to. What did you think of Thekla versus Jamie Hayter, where everybody was banned from ringside?
I hope you watched this. The fact that you asked me first makes me think you didn't. It was such a train wreck. It was really bad. But it was the kind of bad match that pulled me in. I was like, oh my God, this just keeps getting worse. I don't know who was the sloppy person or who was just unprepared, but this match was not good. Then I saw people raving about it online, like, what a great women's match. No, that match was terrible, and it was sloppy, and it looked like it should be on an indie. Not good.
Well, I knew that I had a long slog ahead of me, and I was, why would I do this to myself this early? Because, again, I've got to conserve my energy. There's only so many times you can have all you can stands, and you can't stands no more. So I'll leave them alone till next time. Because we had to move forward to the winner gets $500,000 in cash in a fucking duffel bag match. What the... So the Hartley boys won $500,000 in the 10-man tag because Moxley didn't want his, so he gave it to them. But then Nick, who's apparently got a gambling problem, called 1-800-GAMBLER. And he lost it at, the casino in Indian Lake is a scene that you make with your little one. I don't know where the fuck they were. And then they're having another match for $500,000, but it's always in a goddamn duffel bag in cash. Is this number one, a safe, and number two, a legitimate way to do business in this day and age, Brian?
I think it's probably a throwback to in the past when that's happened in wrestling. Like Bobby Heenan had a bag of cash, a duffel bag of cash, when John Studd had the body slam challenge.
I guarantee you, if he'd had $500,000 in a duffel bag, he wouldn't have got out of the fucking dressing room, much less the goddamn arena.
How much money was supposed to be in that box for that battle royal where you got knocked out? Or the match where you got knocked out?
No, it wasn't even a battle royal. It was supposed to be.
It turned into a battle royal, the match.
Well, yeah. There was only supposed to be a few of us in the ring, turned into quite a crowd. I think it was $1,000. Hart and Cornette will throw $1,000 at the crowd. Lawler went to the box office. His mother, Hazel, sold tickets, worked the box office, and he got like $227 in $1 bills and crumpled it up. So he put it in a box. It looked like a lot of cash. And the first fucking 2 handfuls, that's all I remember. Folks have heard that story, but $500,000. And again, it's the Buckaroos and Jungle Jack Off and Dino. Here we are 6 years later in the same exact place. And Tony's got one thing here. The fans like the Lizard. They could give a shit about the other 3. And I know that the Lizard is not particularly that good. We've seen what he's done in the past, but if somebody could produce him, you could do something with him and the people like him, but nobody will produce him. And he's again stuck in this. It's the kids that want to play on a trampoline and they only interact with their friends. So I skipped the first 15 minutes of the match and then dropped in, and there was nothing happening and the fans were silent. And the visual of either one of the Jackson boys against Jack Perry, if just not just a WWE fan, but if just a regular person was, I know it's a pay-per-view, you'd have to do it on purpose, but they do this on TV too. The visual, you would bust out laughing, unless they were viewers of, what was it, Matt Rats, Brian, from 15 years ago. But it's the same thing always. There's no tags, there's no logic. Knox is the referee because he just stands there and puts up with their meaningless drivel. That's their guy. Every other referee would probably be embarrassed. The fans sit there and stare in between the guys doing their tricks. And then they'll pop if a bump looks like it hurt somebody. And they make it as choreographed as they can and drag out their multiple false finishes. And then finally the baby faces double teamed Maddie over and over in front of the referee and pinned him and won the $500,000. So let that sink in again a minute. The baby faces double teamed one of the heels several times and then just pinned him. Your thoughts on the match before we go to the, oh, you guessed it, there is an afterbirth.
You know, I actually liked it a little better than the average Young Bucks match, and I think because it wasn't in any way physically insulting. Suzanne saw some of this in here, and she didn't know who any of these people were. I had to say, that's Dylan McKay from 90210's son. That's Luke Perry's son. You know, and she noticed how thin he is. He's very, very slight. Next to him, the Young Bucks looked like big guys on the gas. And their stuff isn't as unreasonable. Look, I mean, their style of match is one thing, but watching them do their moves to someone the size of Jack Perry makes sense.
So if we could just get smaller and smaller people on the roster.
I think they should only be wrestling small people. Also, Luchasaurus, super over, like you said. You know, there's no one there to really teach them how to structure a tag match. I told Suzanne while she was here, I don't even remember what point. It could have been any point. I said, watch the referee. Tell me what he's doing. And it was a point where, like, there were multiple people in the ring. Rick Knox is just standing in the back at the opposite corner, and he kind of moves his hands around a little and says something, and sometimes it looks like he wants to take a step, but he doesn't. But I said, what is he doing? And then another time it was when someone was counting, and it was the longest, most ridiculous count. But yeah, I actually did not have a problem. I thought it was, for a Young Bucks match, I thought it was all right.
Well, that's faint praise. But nevertheless, let's get to the point of the whole thing. Now they played for 25 minutes or whatever. So the baby faces go to leave with the bag of loot. But they stop and turn around and not only offer their hands for a handshake, but Perry offers a stack of money to the Bucks. And and then suddenly Josh Alexander and Mark Davis and Lance Archer jump in and start beating the shit out of Jungle Jack and Dino, and the Bucks do nothing, but they just get out and walk out. They go to the entranceway, and so the heels are getting some sloppy heat. And then music plays, and here comes Kenny. And he stops and talks to the Buckaroos. And he's like, why don't you do something? Well, we don't want to. Well, why don't you do so? Well, we don't want to. And then he hits the ring, and he starts fighting the three heels. And then Jack and Dino get up, and they start fighting. And they run the heels out of the ring at that point. So again, more baby faces that look stupid. Here's these whiny little bitches, Maddie and Nikki, and after they have this 25-minute long match with them, they're not only going to offer a handshake, but here, have some of our money. Who thinks like that? And then they get the shit kicked out of them, and these guys do nothing after they've offered them money because they're fucking doormats. These baby faces are not likable. We'll get to Darby in a little while. He's doing everything he can to Darby's one of those people that you like the idea of him when you first see him, and more you get to know about him, the more you think he's an idiot. But he's doing everything he can to run common sense people off of his bandwagon. These are some stupid fucking baby faces in this booking.
Well, the crazy thing is, I think this is to set up the Young Bucks turning babyface shortly down the road. That's the craziest thing about this. The awkwardness and them and Adam Page, them and Omega, them and the Jurassic Express just had this match, and they immediately want to be friends with the Bucks, and the Bucks leave slowly because they have to think about it. This is all in the same mindset of the people who thought, let's make Adam Page a drunk for the next year. Like, this is the same mindset. They're trying to turn them baby faces this way. Because eventually, when Omega and the Jurassic Express need help, the Bucks will have to step in.
It boggles my mind that they don't understand the difference, that you can't switch babyface from being a heel unless you were kind of over or kind of hot as a heel. And it's awful hard to switch heel, but not as hard as the other way around. But it's hard to switch heel if you're not some level of a babyface to begin with. But these guys don't have heat because of their wrestling performance. They annoy people. And their flash in the pan has passed. And their own AEW fans now have moved on to shinier things that do, at least they do the same shit all the time, but they haven't seen them as long as they've seen the Buckaroos. And they're just, people have figured out these are just two smarmy, self-obsessed, delusional children playing games. So whether they switch babyface, switch heel, paint themselves blue, whatever, they just annoy people.
Well, you know, Jim, perhaps things could have gone differently. Perhaps they would have gone differently if Nick Jackson had made better decisions. Like, instead of going to the casino and blowing all his money, just sitting at home with his family, but getting on his phone, downloading that app, and going to our friends at DK Casino.
That's right, because then it wouldn't have all these problems, all these issues with running fans and viewers off in droves and having complete apathy about his work as he continues to bald and move into middle age while still being called young and or a buck. Folks, if you feel like a young buck, but you don't want to go to the casino and stay out all night, be subjected to all those wild women with their loose morals, you can just sit at home and be subjected to your wild woman with loose morals and download the DraftKings Casino app, the home of, that's why they call it cash eruption. Because, guys, let me tell you this. If you got cash, you can buy an eruption. Right now, spin the largest collection of cash eruption slots, including new and exclusive big bank breakout. Because if you knock over a big bank, you're going to have to break out. But if you've got a big bank, well, break it out. You're going to make some money. And then you can erupt for more cash. Folks, it's all part of the incredible fun you'll have when you go to the DraftKings Casino without leaving your home. You're going there in your mind. It's a playground in my mind. My name is Michael. I got some money. I'm going to download the DraftKings app. Then I'm going to spend all my money there. But you're going to get 500 extra spins when you wager $5 of Michael's money from the playground in your mind to the DraftKings Casino. Brian, are you with me on this? All you got to do. Yeah. All you got to do, ladies and gentlemen, at the DraftKings app is be a new player and wager $5, and you're going to get 500 free spins over 10 days. So you spend $5, they give you 500 extra spins. You can play classic cash eruption today. You can play Red Hot Joker tomorrow. You can play coins and clovers over and over. It's all up to you and or the Shondells. Get the app and sign up with the code Cornette. That is my name, my last name, and spelled just like that. CORNETTE. The code is Cornette for the 500 spins over 10 days. And then start spinning on the home of cash eruption. Spin and twist and pump and do all kinds of motions until that cash erupts all over you from DraftKings Casino, because the crown is yours. Brian, say something for a minute while I take some oxygen.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, yes, let's remind you what a great deal this is. Remind you that you can download the app or go to casino.draftkings.com. Use the code Cornette at sign up. Do it today. Do better than Nick Jackson.
Are you ready now?
We are ready.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus, physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. Non-withdrawable casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days, valid for featured game only, and expire each day after 24 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends January 4th, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's right. The crown is yours. Download the app once again, or go to casino.draftkings.com. Use the code Cornette.
Yeah, the oxygen tank is mine.
I guess we just want to stress the code Cornette.
Yes,
but Jim,
that code has just been stressed all the way out.
Jim, you know what that means? It's time to get
What does that mean?
Back to St. Louis and back to AEW WrestleDream.
I need a breath. Hold on. All right, let me stretch my arms and roll my neck. Well, boy, the next one was tough to sit through. The Tornado 6-man tag between Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, and MVP against Ricochet and the Two Stooges. And remember, I said, explain to me this program. And they've done it ass backwards, where they had a 6-man tag first, then they went to a tag team match, then they've come back to a Tornado 6-man. These heels can't work. This is above them to have a six-way. And again, besides the fact that the whole story's been convoluted and they've lost out on the opportunity to have the people really pay to see MVP get a hold of Ricochet, which could have been an excellent carrot at the end of a stick if they'd had a coherent plan going into this from the start, and you could have engendered some interest in that. But the way they've done it, everybody's just beat up everybody. But nevertheless, the heels can't handle it. I've said Khan has potential. He's athletic. He can do some moves. He's still green. Leone sucks. And he's just big, and that's the problem. He's too big to move around, and when you get him and Lashley against each other through the whole thing, they're just chopping meat. And it's just blah. Ricochet can do the gymnastics and the flying shit, but all of his actual wrestling is shite, and he doesn't have any natural instincts about how to put a match together. I can imagine that the Hurt Syndicate tried to put this together, but when you have, again, no tags and no DQ and no rules, where the heels are going to jump the baby faces in the aisle on the entranceway, and it's going to be a six-way through the whole thing, you can't call everything for anybody, much less guys that don't know what the fuck they're doing. And a lot of it was spit on the floor. Either all of them or at least a few of them. At one point, Lashley and Leone just fought for a few minutes while they were doing shit in the ring, and the fans were just staring because the attention is diverted. The fans don't particularly care about this issue either. They want to see the Hurt Syndicate throw people around. And then the tables start where now they've got the Hurt Syndicate doing the same shit that everybody else does, that all the fucking indie guys do. To get heat, they had the heels put Lashley on a table, and then they got Shelton on the steps and double choke slammed him off the steps onto Lashley through the table. And then all three of the heels would beat up MVP, but I was right. This is brutal to watch, was my notes, because it sounds more exciting than it was, because they're just plodding fucking through it. Then we had Lashley made a comeback, but then Lashley versus Ricochet went forever while the other four hid and watched somewhere. I wrote, it won't end. By that point, Leone was either drunk or blown up, and Shelton woke him up a little bit. The crowd, he Germaned Ricochet over the top rope onto the heels and dove onto all of them. But then they still kept going. And then finally, all three of them hit Khan with something and beat him 1, 2, 3. And I remember Bobby Lashley being in a couple of less than impressive outings in the WWF, but this is the worst Shelton Benjamin match I've ever seen. And it wasn't his fault, because he's not Merlin the Magician. It was not promising in layout in advance, and it was rotten in execution. So that was that. I'm sorry, but good Lord, it hurt my feelings. Well, we're done with that. So, for the TNT title, ladies and gentlemen, it was Mark Briscoe against Kyle Librarian Felcher. When he comes out with the little glasses and things, it just like, he looks so studious. Here's the thing, and of course I watched this because I like Mark Briscoe, but also I'm sympathetic to Kyle because he has talent and he's got so much potential. And I'm afraid that this is going to be the biggest wasted opportunity for the wrestling industry that we're looking at right now. Braun Breaker's in the WWE, and he's going to be in the main event at WrestleMania. But if you're looking at the next level of guys that are capable of and have all the tools, Kyle is amongst them. He's got a great physique. He's athletic. He does all the moves well. He works hard. He gives it his all. He needs experience and hair and a defined personality. But the problem is, and we've said it, he's never going to learn here. He's never going to learn psychology, never going to learn putting a match together right. He's never going to learn how proper booking goes. The advanced level shit that you have to know to be a legitimate big star rather than just being athletic. And he's going to get none of this here, because even if people are telling him one thing, they're putting him in this kind of environment where his booking on TV, his manager is not really a manager, and the booking is back and forth, and every match has to do every goddamn thing. And, nevertheless, but I feel bad for him because he could be a boon to the business. Maybe he's young enough when he gets out of there and he gets to the other place that, he won't be too old to learn new tricks. I wanted this to be a wrestling match because they can both do it. But at the same time, they're down on the floor doing the stunts with the chair. And okay, yes, some of that is Briscoe's gimmick. But they've already done that shit in the last one. Get in the ring. Let's use the ring once in a while. And then Mark, he goes for the cannonball flip off the apron of the ring, but Kyle ducks out of the way and Mark busts his ass hard on the floor. So the heel didn't cheat to stop the babyface. He outsmarted the babyface. Nobody's letting them think about these things. They're making them think. They're coming up with ideas for what they can do in the match, and there's nobody sitting there to remind them, hey, whoa, what about oh, shit, you're right. If you don't think about something, nobody brings it up because there's no control. And then Kyle turned the stairs sideways and powerbombed Mark on the stairs while the referee stood there and watched it. This wasn't supposed to be the no disqualification, anything goes match, Brian. It was all the other ones. And then Kyle just got in the ring and Mark beat the count and it turned into another regular match. The guy's just been powerbombed on the fucking stairs. So then Mark fought back because the powerbomb didn't stop him for too long. And they started trading fake forearms where it looked like neither one of them can work or both of them can work. One would think that somebody would be enterprising enough to realize I'm not going to do this direct that everyone else is doing. And then Mark made a comeback and it got complicated. They went back and forth. It was a cold single match. They kind of lost people with too much what the fuck is going on. They got on the top turnbuckle. They struggled forever. Mark carefully helped Kyle give him a superplex off the top rope. And they both sold forever. I'm thinking that they're about to go home. They roll to the floor. Mark Briscoe then gives Kyle a J driller on the apron of the ring. And then they fall to the floor and sell forever. And then Mark rolls Kyle in, goes for the elbow off the top. Kyle moves. He's just been J drillered on the apron of the ring. Now they're both fine because they're up. Mark gives an elbow off the top rope onto Kyle, who's standing on the floor, which was neat. That was a cool looking move. Not after all the goddamn hospitalization angles. And then he rolled Kyle in and gave him a froggy bow off the top and got a 2 count. I'm like, God damn, we're 20 minutes in. What the fuck? Now, then they started kicking out of roll-ups. They followed J drillers on the apron and power bombs on the stairs with the best of Tony Charles and Billy Robinson. And then Mark hit another Jay Driller and got a 2 count, and Fletcher got to ropes. And then after all of that, we're closing in on 25 minutes. Briscoe puts Kyle up in the torture rack. Kyle grabs the referee's shirt, like to steady himself and pull the referee toward him. He drops behind Mark, does Kyle. When Mark swings and Kyle ducks, Mark holds up so he doesn't hit the referee. Brian, how far would you have estimated that the referee was when Mark Briscoe stopped his swing short? Was he 10 or 12 feet away from him? What do you think?
It was a good distance.
He was all the way back in the corner of the ring. So Mark holds up like, oh my God, I almost punched in your general direction. Kyle gives Mark a little shove in the back. Mark takes one step toward the referee, and the referee turns and cowers in the corner like he's seen a truck coming at him. And then when he does that, Kyle kicks Briscoe in the balls while the referee is obviously trying not to look. He looked up and he looked around. My God. And then Kyle hits Briscoe with a brainbuster. Cover. 1, 2, kick out. He kicked out of that. Then Kyle gave him a knee lift, got a 2 count. Then Kyle lawn darted him into the turnbuckle and gave him another knee lift and gave him a brainbuster on the top turnbuckle. 1, 2, 3. What the fuck? Why did they even do the spot with the referee? The heel could have cheated and won, but instead, he beats him clean and flat. Briscoe has no out. He just got beat flat by this guy with numerous fucking moves. It didn't get any heat on Kyle, except he's a bad heel because he cheated and it still didn't work. The execution looked phony, but thank God that Briscoe in the end just was not as good as the heel because the heel just beat him. The fuck are they doing?
I don't know, and they did it for a while. The spot that, not that it was the greatest thing in the world before, but the spot that really lost me was the superplex just because of them setting it up. It's like when you see guys going slow and the other one just not moving, just breathing, waiting, and they're helping each other, it takes me out of shit.
And grabbing on in the right place gently so that they have...
Yeah, and then they went another like 10 minutes after that and did a whole bunch of other shit.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people will say, well, they got to be careful up there because they might fall off and hurt themselves. Exactly. You don't have to be up there. If you can't do it where it doesn't look cooperative, just don't do it wherever it transpires, top of the ropes or out on the floor, whatever. That used to be a goddamn legitimate requirement. If some green guy came into territory and did shit 2 or 3 nights in a row that looked phony, the referee or the opponent or somebody would tell the office and that wouldn't happen no more. And the guy probably wouldn't be there. Because that was the important thing. It's not what goofy thing can I think of that people will pop because it looks like I may have committed suicide. But what's not insulting to the professionalism of the goddamn industry?
You know, you'd always hear about like the Crockett shows in the late 80s. How there were so many talented wrestlers, it was almost like they were trying to one-up each other. You know, how's someone going to follow the Midnight Express? Well, how's someone going to follow Arn Anderson? How's someone going to follow Ric Flair? You know what I mean? But it wasn't like, all right, we need to be able to do as much as we can because they're going to do it. Let's do something completely crazy and fuck ourselves up.
Yes.
Just to make sure that we get over a little bit more than the other match.
And also, and there, again, stealing the show is by going out and in the time that you're allotted and the fucking parameters of the goddamn rules of the game, you have a match where the issue behind you and you're over with the people and the match brings them on the emotional roller coaster and pays off with a big pop at the end. And the guys used to be able to do that in any number of different ways. I mean, on like a big TBS special or potentially a sellout in Charlotte or Philadelphia or whatever, Ricky Morton would kick out of the rocket launcher at 2 9/10. And we would be 60 seconds from the goddamn hot tag and the fucking comeback and the finish. That was, we didn't need to just, nobody was doing unauthorized juice. You got blood when you were told to. Nobody was, more than an occasional rattling around of a timekeeper's chair was engaging in a bunch of furniture or going 15 minutes past their time or whatever. You had parameters, but you could still do it differently than the other people. Well, speaking of shit that has no parameters, would you like to talk about the women's title match with Toni Storm and Chris Statlander?
Yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, my thoughts are that it was still going 20 fucking minutes after they started the thing. They started with the Toni Storm style Hollywood video, and I determined that was a good place to make up time. And I fast forwarded 20 minutes and they were still fucking going. And the part that I saw was that they German suplexed each other, but each one of them just popped right up and neither one sold it. And then Statlander clotheslined her and hit her with a kind of a tombstone maneuver that's not, where she picks her up at a tombstone position, but then goes forward and slams her on her back, an inverted upside down Styles Clash, whatever. Does that paint the picture in people's minds if they don't know what I'm talking about?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so she hit her with that deal, and then Statlander did a head scissors, an old-fashioned head scissors on Toni Storm in the middle of the ring and was cranking it, as you should, working the hold, and Toni Storm was struggling, and Statlander was keeping it, and Toni Storm was waving her arm and struggling. And I'm thinking, boy, after almost 20 minutes of match or whatever, they've made a curious decision to just slow down and become completely immobile here in the ring at this point. And after 1 minute and 20 seconds of being in the head scissors and completely immobile, Statlander let her go, picked her up, and gave her the same move she'd just given her before, the inverted Styles Clash. 1, 2, 3. What in the actual fuck is going on here? And then they hugged each other.
Of course.
And Toni Storm left.
She didn't even have to give her a wad of cash like Jack Perry tried to do with the Young Bucks.
Toni Storm was their star. And I'm using the term was now because that's apparently that relationship is coming to an end, at least with the fans, if not the office. But I can understand if they turn somebody strong heel and that person came in and upset Toni Storm, but Statlander, is she a heel? Is she a baby face? We don't really know. I don't think she knows. This whole thing started with a four-way fucking match. And then, regardless of what it is, you have a match on pay-per-view where a woman or a man gave the opponent a move, got a stationary hold on him for almost a minute and a half, picked him up and gave him the move again and pinned him 1, 2, 3. That's kind of as flat as you can fucking get. And then they hug each other because Toni Storm's like, well, yeah, okay, I guess I'm a piece of shit. Like she Vadered herself. Here, I'll hug you. Who gives a shit? And she's gone. And then they play music, and Mercedes Moon comes out with the job guys wearing all of her outlaw title belts, and she stripper dances to the ring and gets the microphone and tells Statlander to get out of her ring, and she does.
That was the surprising part. Not that the heel said that, but the babyface has to do something. Babyface can't leave when the heel says that, and she just walked right out.
Oh, yes, she can, because she did. With a kind of put her head down and like, why I oughta, and turned around and left. Like a whipped puppy. And so I don't understand how that, by that line of logic, Mercedes Moon ought to just wipe her feet on Toni Storm's face. Because she just completely verbally punked out the person that just beat Toni Storm. And then she cut a promo and saying she was Ultimo Moan now. Brian, how many people in the United States today do you think understand this whole Ultimo Guerrero 30 years ago had 10 belts thing?
I think the most important person does, Tony Khan.
Could it be more than a couple of 100,000 that maybe are still alive when they were watching wrestling at that point in time?
I think it's to the point where anyone who remembers any of this from the 90s who was not a fan of Japanese wrestling, just picked up on it like from WCW, may not even remember which wrestler had all the belts.
Do they know Ultimo Guerrero from Juventud Guerrero?
Well, no, there's not really. Ultimo Dragon and Ultimo Guerrero are two different people.
Oh, I will see there, and there's another one.
And Ultimo Guerrero is not, I don't believe he's related to Juventud Guerrero.
Well, then who's Ultimo Dragon related to? Because he got to be related to somebody or they wouldn't have given him 10 belts.
That's Asai, isn't it?
Well, I'll see you later. Is Asai related to Ishii?
I opened myself.
See, these are questions we have. See, this whole thing, she's a mark in her mind. Nobody's ever heard of these obscure, small, independent girls promotions that she's going around and apparently giving them a break on the price to what?
I don't think it's girls promotions. I think it's promotions that have girls matches, but just like AEW or WWE now.
Girls belts, girls titles. The point is they're small, independent, obscure, whatever, but she's probably even given them a break on her rate since Tony Khan's paying her. And she gets to win their belt because it's a big deal to her to hold all these belts that mean nothing. So now and she says, who's next to challenge me? And out comes Mina Mellons. They added a match, and it was a Mercedes Moan match. And now that's 3 girls matches in the first 3 hours, 2.5 hours, this goddamn marathon pay-per-view. And I fast-forwarded another 20 minutes, and they were just then finished. You had, in the middle of what people paid for, between Mercedes and Mina and Storm and Stat, it was a goddamn Lifetime movie for 45 or 50 minutes on this thing.
I thought the Mina Monet match was pretty good.
Mina Monet?
No, not Mina Monet. The Mina I was just using without versus Monet.
Mercedes Mellons match is what you're saying.
No one would say that. We would say Mina Mellon. We wouldn't say that either. We'd say Mina Shirakawa versus Mercedes Monet.
Well, if it wasn't a melon, it was sure a lemon. All right. Would you like to get to the match that I watched with fascination? Just fascination.
Yeah. What's that?
The tag team title match. Because I'm a tag team expert. They just uploaded Midnight and Rock and Roll 2 hours on the WWE Vault channel on YouTube. Everybody can bask in our greatness. So I want to see Bandito and Burger King against Okada and Take a Shit. Because I have a perverse fascination in watching this guy. I can't
Okada?
look away. Okada. He's a human soma. I'm fascinated at how I've never seen a human being in a wrestling ring that was flat-footed and blank-faced and that had less energy or emotion or moves as slowly and deliberately as possible, does the least that he can possibly do at any given moment. And every once in a while, he'll remind you he's still living and he'll uncork a drop kick or something. And then otherwise, it's that stoop-shouldered, confused expression with just sleepwalking through life. He's fascinating. He's making millions to do this. So
I will say I thought he hit his best dropkick in AEW in this match when Bandito came off the top rope.
Well, bless him. Right there was a $742,000 dropkick. If you prorate the fucking moves with his goddamn annual salary. So all four of them did moves to each other over and over. Aubrey Ed just stood there slack-jawed like she was staring at a fresh bag of oats and let them all do it. And then everybody comes to a period where they're all selling. The whole match came to a stop. And then there was some kind of slow-motion, fake-looking shit from Bandito and Take a Shit. And then they tagged Okada and Brody King back in because I was like, they're lost. They got to be lost because this is not going the way that they laid out. Obviously, the baby faces double teamed Okada over and over while the referee continued staring, and then more nothing happening. Then they made another babyface tag. And I wrote, this is a mess. And then they all did more shit to each other. And then more nothing. And we were 25 minutes into this thing. And I wrote, why is this horse-faced goof supposed to be a referee if she's just going to watch the heels double team the baby face and just make funny faces? So that was an observation. And then Okada hit Take accidentally with the clothesline, but then he gave him the finger. And then finally, Bandito got Okada with that flippy little goofy German suplex where the guy has to bend over and hold the ropes like he's either going to be searched by the police or prison penetrated. And 1, 2, 3. 27-minute match. Your thoughts?
I thought it was all right. The fans are really into Brodito. But it's interesting that no matter how much the fans are into someone on the show, could be Tony Storm, could be Brodito, could be anyone, they get deathly silent at times in matches, like moments after they were just chanting or screaming. Like completely awkward silent. Like you almost cringe watching this.
Well, they pop on, as I said, the things that look like they hurt. When their chosen favorite or anybody in some of the slower matches shows signs of life and like they're kicking into it, they start reacting almost like encouraging, yes, please go now. And they'll have a big exchange that'll get a reaction, then everybody will continue to lay there for so fucking long because they have to do so much more that people are like, oh, goddamn, thought that was it. Really wanted it to be it, but But we were ready for the World Heavyweight Championship to be on the line, Brian.
Yes, we were.
See, that's what he ought to do. If Paige insists on being a nerd and calling it the Men's World Championship, then they have to call it the Men's World Heavyweight Championship and the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. So you got to be fair. Oh, 3.5 hours into the pay-per-view, and with another, what was the pre-show? Was it an hour and a half? We don't know. And they're ringing the bell for this match. And remember, I said, okay, if they're switching Joe babyface, if they're switching Joe heel, I'm into this because he definitely needs to be elevated. But I thought they would kind of switch him heel before they beat him. But hey, it's a choice. Nevertheless, Joe, without tipping the thing off at the end, he established himself as the more heelish, the rougher guy, a little bit more of a hothead, so that would leave the more sympathetic babyface position open for Paige. The problem that I see is Paige can't establish himself as a babyface because he does the same shit in the same way, with the same expression and the same execution, with the same level of urgency in every match he has. Brian, is there any difference in the way he ever acts or does the things that he does or do?
No. Whether it's the promos or the matches. It's always a guy who's kind of got a chip on his shoulder because there's a dump in his pants and he just wants to get in the back and get a new pair of pants.
I got a chip on my shoulder and a dump in my pants. Well,
that'll be on my new album, Great Brian Last Boombaye, coming soon.
Hey, there's that chip on his shoulder and dump in his pants guy. They did a spot that popped me, and then I realized they did it accidentally. Paige went for that stupid moonsault he does in every match off the top turnbuckle to the floor without looking where his opponent is. But the first time he went for it, as he was about to go, he looked down and he saw Joe standing on the floor in front of him. And he's got like, what the fuck? And he got down. I thought that popped me. At least they finally did it. And then later on, seconds later, I realized, no, he was going to go for it then, and Joe wasn't in the right place. And he looked down and fucking saw him for a shoot. Because again, they tried again, and this time Joe walked away from it. Joe was already in the walk away position. I guess he walked away too soon the first time. I don't know. But when Joe walked away, he was 10 feet from where Paige landed in the first place before he started walking away. And then the camera missed Paige rolling up to his feet. The announcers tried to save it. And he drop kicked Joe. But now they've been on the floor for 2 minutes just trying to do this nonsense that Paige can't not do. And then they got heat on dipshit, but then he fired up and went for the moonsault again. And this time they've set it up where as Paige is going up to the top for the moonsault, Joe's going to roll into the ring and Paige is going to turn and moonsault into the ring and outsmart him. He did moonsault into the ring, but he didn't outsmart him. He overshot him. He completely went past Samoa Joe, who was stationary, immobile, not moving, and landed with a thud way over on the other side of him, and then covered Joe for a 2 count. And Nigel even tried to kind of halfway explain it, but he got stuck in the middle and buried himself for bringing it up. You gotta, Paige is going to do all this shit. And you can't not, it looks phony and he can't not do it. They fought on the turnbuckle. One would think Alexander and Ibushi might have put some people off of that. So Joe could bend over and hold still for 11 seconds. I counted for Paige to sunset flip him, powerbomb him off the top. And then finally, Paige foiled the muscle buster and hit a dead eye for a 2 count. And then Paige hit 3 buckshots in a row. 1, 2, 3. And at least this was only 20 minutes. But now we've established that Paige just beat Joe flat out. Boom. There was no goddamn out for Joe. Joe didn't accidentally hurt himself or bad luck didn't go his way or whatever. Paige just beat him, right, Brian? With 3 of his finishes.
Yeah, beat him cleanly. Samoa Joe could do nothing but respect that.
Well, and the fans can do nothing but say, okay, we've seen it now. And that's when Hobbs and Shapoopy come in the ring and help Joe up. And they are chanting for Joe and they're cheering for Joe. Because all along, these people are predisposed to like Samoa Joe and he's believable. And he can talk. And he can have these matches that you can buy him in, which is why he gets over. And then Joe shakes Paige's hand and hugs him and raises his hand and then clotheslines him out of his boots. And all the heels get on Paige, and then Joe hits him over the head with the title belt. And then he gives him the muscle buster with the title belt. And the crowd is hot. And I wish he would have laid out Shapoopy too, because that guy's just an anchor around the neck. Hobbs looked great. Joe's the head guy. Shapoopy's standing there with his dick in his hand. But the doctors carted the carcass of Paige out. So they beat him flat and then they turned him. If there had been something where Joe was on the verge of winning and he had bad luck, or Paige foiled something in such a way that Joe was hampered, and then he hits him with his finish once out of nowhere. But now they've just had their match. Joe did everything he could do, and then Paige hit him with his finish 3 times, 1, 2, 3. Yes, Joe should be mad that he lost and he turned heel, but he could be mad at losing and turn heel because he still feels it was unfair he lost. Something else happened. But so now they've settled the issue and now they're going to rematch it, I guess, I would think. But the only way that works is if Joe wins a belt from him, which hopefully will happen. Your thoughts, Brian?
You asked me, I think, last week if I thought they were going to turn Samoa Joe heel, and I said no, I didn't think so, just because it didn't seem like the right thing to do. The fans actually respond to him, even though he's been better as a heel in the past. Well, they did it here after he was beat cleanly. After he was beat cleanly by the champion, they turned him here with his stable. It's been a while since Hobbs was a heel. Shibata, I don't think we've ever seen as a heel.
How would we know?
I don't know what else to add there, but we'll see what happens. Samoa Joe, another heel run. But you think for them to do this, he has to win the belt?
Well, no, he doesn't have to, and he probably won't. I'm just saying the only way that would make this make sense is if he did. But he's not going to, so it ain't going to make sense.
All right, we are back. As if we ever left. But Jim, there's one more match, the big main event, although that was the world title match. The match everyone was waiting for. The I Quit match, Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley.
Well, let me go ahead and point something out now that we haven't talked about because I wanted to save it for this. But did you notice one thing, Brian, that they had the tables and they had all the fighting on the floor and they had all the various business, the kicking out of finishers. What manner, what method of excess did you not see on this show that you normally see from an AEW big event?
What method of excess? So something we usually see, it not like a gun, just something that's excessive.
Something that normally you see to excess on AEW that you hadn't so far on this show.
I don't know.
The blood. The blood. Because where were they? St. Louis, Missouri. Missouri has an athletic commission.
Oh, that's right.
And I was waiting to see what they were going to pull because, I mean, this whole match was what you would expect. You know, Moxley is a homeless tweaker whose fucking idol is the bank addicted drug robber Nick Gage, and Darby Allin is the frustrated host of his own jackass show in his mind. And they're going to do some stupid shit, but they went even farther into the stupid shit because you can't tell me that both these guys, one or both of them, wouldn't be drenched in blood in an I Quit match with all the other shit they've done, except they had a responsible governing body saying no. And if Missouri is like Kentucky, it was a state statute that not only was self-inflicted bleeding, and that's the way they phrased it, was illegal. You couldn't do it. But that if this was Kentucky, I don't know about Missouri, if you had accidental blood, you were supposed to end the match, go home as quickly as possible, or elsewise it would be stopped by the commission. Now, I'm not up on the current Missouri laws since I don't give a shit, but one would think that this played a part in this. But at the same time, and I know somebody's going, oh, well, Darby was bleeding from the mouth. That was a gimmick. That was some gimmick, because if anybody started bleeding like he did from the mouth and they didn't pack it with fucking ice, it wouldn't have stopped on its own. But that's the way they got around that shit. They had a little blood, but there's a self-inflicted and or however they phrase it, if their blade is involved, whatever. But this was just, I know some people call it torture porn, but it wasn't really believable enough for that, would it? If somebody was going to get off on all this screwy mutilation shit, it looked too phony for that.
It was like a snuff exhibition.
Yes, it wasn't full contact, ladies and gentlemen. It was a sparring session of snuffing. And Darby's going to try to kill himself, but, you know, they're not really going to try to kill each other. But you can't really understand what goes through these people's minds. They do 18 hospitalization angles in a match. They try to appeal to the lowest common denominator. They try to make everything about wrestling accentuate the bad taste element. And also at the same time, when you see one of these things, you understand why the Sheik's matches only went 7 minutes. Not only was it chaos, but you didn't have really time to think about it. Holy shit. And it was over. So they're 4 hours into the show and plus the pre-show. By the time they ring the bell on this thing, Darby takes out the AEW flag out of his backpack and lays it out in the middle of the ring over the top of the AEW logo, which was bigger. And then Darby, they get in a flurry. Darby hits a dive and they fight on the floor for a second. They get in the ring and Moxley stopped him. So the babyface got a drop kick and a dive and got shut down in the main event. I know it's his gimmick to sell and be the underdog, but Moxley takes a chain around his fist, punches him over and over. And that's where they did the blood from the mouth. And then Moxley gets a handful of shrimp skewers or whatever they're used for in the barbecue world, and used one to stick it under Darby's fingernail.
Shish kebab.
Shish kebab. There you go. But kebab in England is a different thing. Did I tell you that?
No.
We were in England and they said, hey, you want some kebabs? Fuck yeah. To me, that is large chunks of meat on a skewer grilled, right? They gave me something that looked like Dalmatian shit in a dirty diaper. I don't know what the fuck was going on there.
It's called Merry Old England. That's what it is.
Well, I don't know about merry, but it'll make you old. So Darby got the flag and wrapped it around Moxley's neck and hung him. But then he missed a coffin drop off the top rope onto the apron and bounced sickeningly onto the floor. And then Moxley took Darby's belt off and whipped the shit out of him with his own belt. And again, at the same time, I'm saying all this stuff is happening, the pace is glacial. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I can't speak for you. I don't know what your experience was. I watched it live. And not that I was looking forward to this match, but it was the main event. We're going to talk about it. I have to watch it. I want to watch it live. I don't want to have to return to it. I did Amazon Prime Video once again. This is where it cut off. Like all of a sudden around here.
I heard about that, yeah.
Just a still frame that was like pink, purple. I don't know what it was. And then it told me that it was because I was playing Amazon Prime on too many TVs. There was one TV I was playing it on. That was the error code I got. But apparently other people got it. I had to return to the match the next day. I got a $15 credit from Amazon.
Well, and that's, again, something that was only that service, right? Or did they have a couple of problems on a couple of different services, but they said it wasn't AEW's issue, but there were some type of issues. I don't know.
There were two issues on Amazon Prime. One during Mercedes Moné versus Mina Shirakawa. That may have been like a minute. But here during the main event, that was it for the rest of the night. I had to go to Twitter to see fucking highlights because people just kept posting them of everything that happened. And then I watched the match complete the next day.
Well, I envy you. See, I wouldn't have cared enough to come back, but as I watched the replay to begin with, they had it all in one piece by the time I got there. But that's the thing, is that Moxley's whipping him to death with the fucking belt and he gives him a pile driver, but Moxley's also doing the stuff where he just wanders around and shows that he's mentally conflicted and impaired in some fashion. And then Darby stood up and grabbed the rope, the ring rope, and bent over again, like in the frisk me or prison penetrate me position, and asked Moxley to whip him some more. Come on, motherfucker. So Moxley did about 10 more times. Is the babyface supposed to be a complete imbecile? Why are you supposed to root for a guy that is that some kind of Japanese fighting spirit indie thing they've got from the indie wrestling over there? Because when I was young, the babyface was not supposed to be a fucking moron that you didn't give a shit about because he's brought it on himself or he's stupid enough that he's letting it happen. And then Moxley walked over and talked to Marina Shafir, and Darby jumped up and made a comeback, and then Moxley cut him off again. But then Darby got lighter fluid out of his bag and squirted it all over Moxley, but Moxley was rolling around in it like he couldn't get away, like Vince swimming in the fucking beer truck beer that time. And then here comes Wheeler Useless and Danny Garcia. They run out, but Darby sprays them in the face with mace. But Moxley stops him again. And Moxley gets in Darby's bag and gets the taser. They fight over the taser, but Shafir comes in and nutshots Darby, and then Moxley tasers him and curb stomps him and gets a chair from Claudio and sets it up and gives him a double-arm DDT on the chair. And, of course, this is an I Quit match, so they can't cover because there's no pins. But did you notice also, Brian, what else there wasn't?
What?
A referee with a microphone.
Oh, for an I Quit match, of course.
It's an I Quit match. The whole idea is I'm going to make you say I quit. No, I'm going to say you make I quit. I'm going to, you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying I quit. but the referee doesn't have them. They're not using the microphone. They're not trying to put a guy in a position where he says, I quit to the people, which is the resolution of the thing. From all the famous I Quit matches down through history, including Magnum and Tully, which everybody remembers, but that wasn't the first one by a long stretch. You want to hear the fucking guy say, I quit. So they're just doing this shit to each other. And then Schaefer and Pac set up a table on the floor. Moxley got his choke on Darby. And of course, Darby then responds by flipping the double bird. So Moxley let him go. And Claudio came in and picked him up, pressed him over his head, and threw him from the ring to the announce desk, where he bounced off the top and landed on the floor 10, 12, 15 feet. And then Pac goes and grabs him and drags him bodily by an arm or a leg or whatever around the ring and gave him to Moxley, who gave him the double arm DDT off the apron through 2 tables. And the fans were so worried about Darby, concerned about their hero, in terror that the babyface might be permanently injured, that they started chanting, "This is murder. This is murder." It's a joke to them. It's a joke.
By the way, though, watching at home, it did look like a murder. I was concerned for Darby. It did look like this guy.
Yes, but they don't care. They don't care. Yes, he's fucked up. Mentally and now physically. They don't care. So then there was long arguing with the referee. Moxley's yelling at Darby to quit. Nothing happened forever. And then a couple of the Stooges put a fish tank in the middle of the ring and then dumped 2 coolers of water in it. Did you hear what Sockface said when they were doing this? Oh my God, they can't do this. Do what? Have goldfish? How would he know what they were going to fucking do? He sees a fish tank in the ring and oh my God, he's going to try to drown him. It's a 10-gallon tank. It only fit his fucking head.
You could punch the side of that thing just to break it.
Well, but more on that to come. But Moxley takes Darby and dunks him in the tank. And he's like, give up. And he's dunking him in the tank. And so again, Darby Allin sat around homeless in his car because he's an irresponsible juvenile delinquent that couldn't grow up and become an adult. And he thought of all the goofy shit that he would ever do if he got on Jackass. And meanwhile, Moxley was somewhere in an alleyway sharing a carafe of meth with Nick Gage, trying to figure out all the things they do. And he dunks Darby over and over until the lights go out. And when the lights come back on, it's Sting's grandfather, Ulysses S. Borden. He gives so few fucks about wrestling now, he didn't even dye his hair. He looks like Santa Claus and Colonel Sanders had a baby. And Sting is what? Is he a year or 2 years older than me?
Probably.
So he's gone gray, but God damn, it's Sting, but doesn't he look ridiculous when he literally has the Sting face paint and the Sting clothing on, and he looks like Harlan Sanders?
I didn't think it was that ridiculous. Obviously, it's a retired real estate broker who just was just having a good time on the weekend. I didn't have a problem with that, and it seemed like the fans were into it. It's noticeable that he had a lot of facial hair. I think that stood out more than the hair color.
But died, if you're going to come back and be Sting, that's why I don't make public appearances. I don't want to be Jim Cornette. I don't want to wear a fucking tie, but if you're going to come back, be the guy.
If you came back, do you think you would have to dye your hair, or could you be you?
I wouldn't, because I wasn't Sting, and I'm not completely gray. Goddamn, the fucking physical figure that I cut, they'd be surprised I wasn't in an iron lung, but it's fucking Sting. He's not supposed to look like Father Time.
You thought he looked that bad? I mean, he was covered up. He was wearing a lot of clothes, so you couldn't see what his body looked like. It kind of added.
You can see his fucking head and his chin. He looked like a billy goat.
He looked like the Shroud of Turin.
Oh, damn it. Nevertheless, he had the bat and he choked Moxley with the bat and he hit the Stooges with the bat and he broke the fish tank and all the water floods out all over the ring. And then he handed the bat to Darby and left. And he grabbed Marina Shafir and put her over his shoulder and carried her off with him. So now Darby has a bat. What does Moxley do as Darby points the bat at Moxley? Moxley laughs at him and starts advancing on him. And Darby's got the bat, the end of the bat against Moxley's chest, and Moxley's still gaining ground. Moxley took it and put it against his forehead. Aren't you supposed to be scared of the guy with the bat?
Yeah, by the way, if you're the guy with the bat and the other guy just tried to drown you, hit him with the bat.
Hit him with the bat. But he put it on his own head like, go ahead, hit me. What are you going to do? So Darby gut shotted him and then hit him in the back and then hit him in the leg twice and then put the bat down to get the flag and choke him with the flag. If you have hit a son of a bitch with a baseball bat 4 times and he's still on his feet, are you going to put the bat down and choke him with a flag? Or are you going to keep using the fucking bat?
Let me sit in this puddle and grab this flag.
Jesus Christ. That was kind of always my rule of thumb. Once I'd hit a son of a bitch with the racket, a guy out of the crowd, I didn't stop hitting him till the cops got there. Because if you stop, they will hit you back. Numbnuts. Anyway, so then Darby hit him with the Scorpion Death Drop and a Coffin Drop after he'd hit him with a bat 5 times. And then got the Scorpion Deathlock. And as soon as he turned it over, the referee checked. Okay. And he called it without ever, you never heard Moxley say, I quit in an I quit match. It didn't happen. He shook his head no. And then I think he said yes, maybe.
No, that was super quick. It was super anticlimactic, I think.
And
considering everything that happened in this match and everything Darby had gone through, that was as big a fart as you could have for a finish.
And wasn't there a controversy one time many years ago over a bit high-profile I Quit match where the heel got out of it by saying yes, yes, rather than actually saying I quit, and people were pissed off about it?
I think that's actually legitimately Tully Blanchard's argument, that he never said I quit. He just said, yes!
It was Tully. Yes! Tully, yes! Yes! That was Tully and Magnum, the argument. Jesus Christ. So they can't even steal from the good stuff. But
Terry Funk did it the cleanest. Terry Funk did it the cleanest I've ever seen. Like, yes, Ric Flair, I quit.
Because he was a professional, and that's what it was supposed to be. But here's my thing, and I'll say this, and you make any comments you want to make. I hear all the time, well, you got to do more now because the people are smarter. Or the people, but you got to get more to do more to get a reaction. So when people took wrestling seriously, when these I Quit matches or Texas Death matches or any of these matches, when they were invented, when they were done for years and years, when people took it seriously because it was presented seriously, this kind of match wouldn't have gotten over because it was so phony and obviously bullshit. The fans wouldn't have believed it and they would have turned on it. But now that people know that they're working, that everybody's smart and it's a show, and Darby is actually doing this stuff on purpose and or agreeing to it, doesn't this just let people know that the babyface is an imbecile? And also, why should I be doing anything other than laughing at how stupid it is? Because even if people are really getting hurt, they're agreeing to it. So, should a guy work shit to make people believe it's real and he's a hero? Or should he really cripple himself to get people to laugh at him and talk about what a goof he is because it's all phony? Which one should go on?
Again, that's part of the issue with AEW and always has been. The booking, the logic or lack of logic, but they call it logic, that they put behind the feuds, the build-ups, the payoffs, the things people kick out of, the things that happen, the lack of arrests, all of it.
You know, the only people getting arrested are the fans. Did you see that video clip from the other day?
There's another, actually someone emailed it to me. There's another fan. There's another AEW fan. I don't know what the whole video was because I only checked out a little bit of the link, but
it was a Catch a Predator kind of setup where they went to this guy's house with a camera. He was supposed to be meeting some underage minor girl or whatever, and he's watching AEW. On the body camera footage of the talk that he's having with the guy, you're hearing Shivani calling the fucking action.
Yeah, at one point the guy's like trying to, get him on tape admitting these things. The guy's like, no, I don't talk no 14-year-old girl. As he's like rambling in his weird twang, you just hear in the background like, Tiger Driver 94. You're like, oh shit, I know what show he's watching. Speaking of the commentary, awful all night. I think Nigel does a good job, and Nigel needs to be with the right person. Excalibur is not good at getting the big moments and not playing too much with the other idiots when they play. He's just not a lead commentator. He's not a good commentator. Unfortunately, that's not going to change, but that holds AEW back. Shivani, if he was a horse, you would take him out back and shoot him.
Oh, poor Tony.
He is so bad. He doesn't add anything. He doesn't say, literally, as something's happening, he'll be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Or, wow, this is what AEW is all about. As something's happening, he doesn't give it a chance to breathe. He doesn't give it a chance to happen. He's already trying to put over the company. He adds nothing on commentary. They really should just redo everything with commentary. But yeah, the match, it's what you expect from Moxley, let alone Darby. And I don't think it's very good, and at times the fans just sat there. Moxley was doing like the Roman Reigns thing of acting out and talking out his issues, and you realize it doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to save you, or I'm trying to make whatever he's trying to do. I don't even understand. It's been over a year. What is he trying to do? So yeah, the match, hopefully it's over with these two guys, but it probably isn't. We said hopefully it's over with Moxley and the Death Riders after he lost the belt, and it got worse. And somehow
there's more of them now.
Yeah, it somehow got worse. And, Tony Khan loves him some Jon Moxley. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that later in the drive-thru.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that they would have been bathing in blood too had there not been a commission. But when you think about it, if they went to the commission and said, what about if we put a fish tank in the ring and dunk the guy's head in it? There's no specific statute barring that. It's never actually come up before.
But again, the question, it's an unanswered thing at this point. Why? Like, why did, in character, in gimmick, in kayfabe, trying to make sense of this, why, if Moxley, I don't know if he wants Darby on his side, whatever the hell it is, why is he doing these things where he's clearly not going to kill him? They keep doing these things to people where, like, we want you to think we're going to kill you, but you will not die. I don't understand what any of this is. And I don't
besides
think the fans
that, in the scenario that they've set up and the logic universe that they've created, why don't Claudio and Wheeler and Pac and Marina just come out with bats and just all beat him into fucking jelly when the thing starts? There's no reason to go through all of that.
Hey, in the logic of AEW, why don't they just ban everyone from ringside?
Well, they can only do that if the Continental title's on the line.
Yeah. Just say this match, everyone's banned from ringside, and it'll be enforced somehow.
It's like the same way if you just said, hey, Jack the Ripper, you can't commit murders in Whitechapel anymore. You're not allowed. That would have taken care of the whole thing.
One last thing about this match, even though there's plenty to say. Did Moxley, as the person who's losing this match, hopefully at the end of this feud, but at least at this big moment in this feud, did Moxley have to have that moment where the fans have a second or two where they think he's going to quit or it's getting there. And then he actually, like you said, says it on the mic, or even if they weren't going to do that, just something to indicate anything. It was like the fucking Survivor Series. You had to take the referee's word for it. You didn't see anything. You didn't hear anything.
You know, that's what they're going to do. Moxley got screwed. No, there should have been some struggle, yes, because...
Like, for all the talk that he's so good for AEW's business, if he really was, and it was about getting Darby over, it should have been a spectacle, him giving up.
Yes. Well, and also the thing is, again, with all the other things he's been hit with and all the other things that they've done in previous matches, thumbtacks or whatever the fuck, and baseball bats, it's a scorpion deathlock, and it's on for 5 seconds. After he's already been hit with all this other shit, if nothing else, he should have been unconscious. But no, he puts the hold on him. It's okay. It's over. See, we need to see the face screaming in pain. We need to see the realization on him that, my God, there's no way out. And oh, right, I quit. That was the not, okay, he's done. He did it because he just did it to put the fucking guy over, but they didn't put any thought in it. Maybe he did put thought in it and realized it was better for him to just do it that way.
Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting on Wednesday if either of these guys are selling anything from this match. I'm sure Darby will, just because I'm sure it can't be avoided.
He'll probably be selling patches of his goddamn, wet jacket for 3-inch squares. I was waterboarded in this, only $100.
The sad thing is, Jim, from what I understand, Darby's straight edge, like CM Punk. He doesn't drink or do drugs. I don't know how they get around the caffeine thing, but they do what they do. Moxley, maybe not so much straight edge. But it doesn't matter who you are or where you are. We can all use some help sometimes. Some help that we choose for a good night's sleep, to help with some of the aches and pains, the sores, not sores, just sore muscles, sore muscles.
Sores all over our bodies.
No, I'm
just erupting everywhere, pus leaking from the wounds.
I'm talking about just your body. You want to feel good. And you know what? We have a friend who could deliver some good.
Boy, do we. I'll tell you what.
In the form of CBD.
This guy, I'll tell you what, he pops up every now and then, and he's got the good stuff.
Jim?
Yes?
We're talking about our friends at Cornbread Hemp.
Well, we certainly are. I thought you were talking about our friends down in Colombia making the black tar heroin the way you built up on this thing. Folks, it's not narcotics or drugs. CBD is an all-natural product made from a hemp plant that is a natural flower. And it does help relieve discomfort and stress and sleeplessness that you may undergo or get in your daily life as a result of having to deal with people like the folks at AEW or elsewhere on the street. This stuff from Cornbread Hemp by Cracky is third-party lab tested, USDA organic. The safety and purity are ensured. This is virgin hemp plant that is never laid with another plant in a carnal fashion as mentioned in the Bible. So it's the most purest and potent and pissed off CBD that and occasionally frustrated. And that helps you.
No, it doesn't help you. That's not how it works, and that's not how it helps you. You being the wonderful audience out there who we're trying to introduce to a great product and a great deal. What this will do...
Well, the aggressive CBD gummies are the ones that kick in better and help relieve that discomfort and stress and sleeplessness that you experience.
Huh.
You got to really make these hemp plants pissed off to really fire up the potent CBD.
Well, no, usually it's water and, light and some love, maybe some songs. But, Jim, the listeners, once again, we're trying to tell the listeners all about a great deal from Louisville, Kentucky, your hometown.
Yes, and you got to stock up on it because Mitch McConnell is one of the last things he's trying to do is trying to get all products derivative from the hemp plant illegalized after he's the one that signed them into legality just about 7 or 8 years ago. Now he's turned the limber tail. He's weaseling out.
Sounds like big tobacco got to him.
Well, exactly. And you know what? Though the tobacco folks are a scourge to be reckoned with in the state of Kentucky, but the hemp people are trying to run them out and promote good health. So anyway, stock up on your cornbread hemp products, because if Mitch McConnell has his way, then none of you out there are going to be able to have your gummies and your flour and your sunshine lollipops and rainbows and waterfalls. So right now, our listeners can save 30% on their first order at cornbreadhemp.com by going to cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. 30% off your first order. And if you care about maintaining your physical and mental wellness, as well as your comforting sleep and your peace of mind, and making all those aches and discomforts just fly away on the wings of a snow white dove, CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp, 30% off, code JCE.